Yes, indeed. Take two, ladies and gentlemen, saints and ain'ts, everybody, including Lottie Dottie. It's your boy Retro once again on tonight. This show right here, trust me, you're gonna need to press that share button, hashtag replay, all that stuff. You're gonna have to do that. Okay. Keep it locked and don't you dare touch that dial. It's your boy Retro. Thank you for pressing play. We love you. We appreciate you. You already know how we do it. Everybody included. Lottie Dottie. All right, let's see if this gonna make it do what it do or not. And I guess not. Anyway, we're gonna get started with the show because we can't afford to prolong any further than we've already done. So again, welcome to the show. It's your boy Retro with you on today. We got a nice interview set up with two fine young men, and no homo or nothing like that. But I'm talking about top-notch brothers. You understand what I'm saying? These are what I would like to consider not emerging leaders, but these are leaders. Okay, and it's important to me that we recognize leaders when we see them, whether they're in the making, whether they're being restructured, whatever the case may be. You got to be able to see leadership qualities. Okay, and I am honored tonight to have two very good leaders. And so without any further ado, let's get them on the show real quick. We have Mr. Preston Wasson, and we also have Mr. David Eady. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to the show.
No, thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
All right,
yes,
so
yes.
we got Preston to my top right, maybe your top left. I'm not really sure how it's flipped or whatever. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, Preston, and let the people know who you are.
Yes, sir. Again, thank you. 100% gratitude, respect for you for having me on. Thank you for coming to the event yesterday. It was amazing. My name is Preston Watson. I'm born and raised in Statesville, North Carolina, right there in Belmont where we had the event at. So it's near and dear to my heart. We kind of had a location thing going on where they wanted to change the location, and I was with it, but at the same time, man, the people, they was like, man, we got to bring it back, keep it like it was. But again, the Young Executives is my brand. Um, I started that in about 2013, I believe. So it's been a bunch of summers. We've been out here. My mission statement is simply raising awareness in the community about business, education, and culture. And we're going to do that any way we possibly can, whether it's music, clothes, anything artistic. We do sport for sure. So it's a bunch of things that we do, and we just kind of keep it full circle. It's definitely got a hip hop vibe to it. We like
Okay.
to make sure we give everybody their flowers. I've been saying that for a long time, and
Right.
then I started seeing podcasts. They were saying what I was saying, so I was like, okay, I'm saying something right. So yesterday, I spent a lot of time at that event. Just giving it up. Making sure people felt 100% comfortable, and because hey, we can do it on Facebook all day long, but in real life, that's when it really counts. And then there's so many people that have passed that I've seen, uh, passed away, and I ain't get to say anything to them. So I tried to take a little bit, whether it was just 30 seconds, man. I was trying to give it to everybody, man. So that's what we do, the Young Executives. And again, I'm Preston. Thank you for having me, sir.
Man, you said a mouthful there, President. And again, we thank you for being a part of the show on today. And I'm just going to put it out there because one of the underlining topics for tonight's show is leadership. Okay, and there have been and there are so many great leaders that have been overlooked. And I'm sorry, my preacher getting ready to come out of me, but there was a man by the name of David who was overlooked, but yet and still he was the one who was called, anointed, and appointed. And so many were disappointed. You know what I'm saying?
Bad boy.
Yeah, he was a bad boy. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to go all deep into it because there were several stages of David's life that are important to note as well. However, I saw you yesterday, and I watched you, and there were so many things that you did that was right. You know what I mean? And so, anyway, my point is, a good leader is not afraid of emerging leaders. A good leader is not afraid to give kudos where kudos are due. A good leader is not afraid to deflect the light from him and put it on somebody else, and I saw you doing a lot of that on yesterday. We'll rally back to that. Let's see here. We want to welcome the guests to the show. There's a beautiful lady. I would say she's stalking me, but I put a ring on her finger many years ago, so I know she's not stalking me. But give it up for my lovely wife. She's watching on tonight.
I like your style, bro.
Yeah, man. So she said it was a good atmosphere and vibes on yesterday. Good event, and it really was. It was a good event, and the thing for me, and we're gonna hear from Elder Edie here in a moment. But the thing for me was it felt so organic. It felt so authentic. Excuse me, authentic, and it just felt right. And it put me back about maybe 3 decades in terms of what we had back then. With I almost kept hearing "Summertime" playing in the background. It was just there you go. It was just right, man. To see the kids out there playing and just having a ball, man. It was really a wonderful event. So let's hear from David Edie Sr. Go ahead and let the folks know who you are, sir, and at this time, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my name is David Edie Sr., and I am a pastor at Victory Point here in the city of Springfield, Massachusetts, where I was born and raised. I have been pastoring going on 6 years. 5 of those years was in the city of Lynn, which is right outside of Boston. But on this year, the Lord provided the way for us to go back to Springfield and kind of transition the church from Greater Bethlehem Temple #2 into Victory Point, and we are endeavoring to do a lot of stuff in the community. That's our hope and our drive and our ambition is to actually touch lives. So we're working on a lot of projects. I was excited listening to and excited to hear more about the event that went on yesterday. We are looking at doing a lot of things, planning some community events on this year as well. So I'm excited to hear more about what you all did and just looking at making ministry more practical for everybody to touch, everybody where their need is and where they can actually feel tangibly the impact of what we say we do in their lives. So I'm excited to be here tonight and to discuss with these fine brethren. So that's me.
All right, man. Again,
Nice
welcome to the
you,
show.
David.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
to meet you.
I'm trying to change up my audio here because I've got a few issues going on here, but it's all good. That can even be discussed because anytime you're trying to do something, you are going to have some difficulties, but you can never stop just because difficulties present themselves. With that said and done, Preston, tell us a little bit about the event on yesterday as it relates to problems that would have caused you to turn around, but yet and still you didn't.
Hey man, I tell you what, we definitely endured. We definitely. I had a couple of sleepless nights. I had visions. I had a little bit of everything. I feel like I went through almost every emotion, bro,
Wow.
because we've been planning since pretty much last year, October, and we didn't stop. We didn't, and I ran into a bunch of obstacles, man. But like I use everything in sports terms. So like a bunch of stuff we had to do. We had to rebound, we had to bounce back, we had to hustle, we had to,
Mhm.
next play mentality, next man up. It was just a bunch of different things that we had to incorporate. At the end of the day, it all looked good. And I will say this: yesterday, I had like 98%. I had no stress. I
Mhm.
wasn't letting anything get to me. I didn't care if somebody didn't come, if somebody was on the thing and they couldn't make it. I didn't let it bug me. I didn't let it bother me. And that my staff, my team, everybody was just like running around. Everybody was super busy, super focused, and that was one of the best parts, man. You got to surround yourself with good people, and that's how I got connected with you, sir. Tiffany, she was like, "Hey, um, 'cause I was looking for somebody bad. I wanted somebody to speak. You know what I mean? I needed the pastor. I needed that word. I needed that energy, and that was almost a personal thing. But like the city where we live at, it's just been so much stuff going on, and these kids they don't really take heed, or I mean, I guess it just may be um you know, they listen. I will tell you that. Like when I was looking around when you were speaking, man, people was locked in. The kids was locked in. The teenagers was locked in. Adults was locked in. Everybody took the word that you gave so serious, man, and that was so important to me. So I could care less about some of the things that I kind of had planned in my head. I seen it, those
Mhm.
visions I'm talking about. But then we inserted new stuff like man, and you caught the alley oop and you just dunked it backwards and won and everything. So, I appreciate you for coming through and uplifting the people, giving that encouraging word. And because I had a lady, she grabbed me and she was like, "Hey, we need more gospel. We need more people speaking." And I was like, "I got you. Give me 5 minutes." He didn't know you was about to go up, man. So it was
Right.
just time, and you know what I mean. And it was just a whole lot of God out there, man. One thing that a lot of people might not know or might not remember. When I first started doing like music and poetry, I used to call myself God's MVP.
Okay.
And it was just one of those things that I went by for a long time. So people always kind of say that to me, in passing, or man, you remember those days? You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things that I look up to you for really, holding it down and like you making it happen, you giving it up too. So thank you. I'm glad I got connected with you, man. You stuck with me. I don't know if you know that.
Hey, it's all good, as they often say, and I often repeat: each one reach one, each one teach one. And so,
Hmm.
for a brother like myself, sometimes it's easy to think, feel, and sometimes even believe that what we're saying is really falling on deaf ears. So it really is reassuring hearing what you're saying on tonight. I want to bring David up to speed. So what Preston and his team did was they put
Juneteenth.
together a Juneteenth celebration. So, Preston, real quickly, if you could, what does Juneteenth mean to you, and why did you feel you need to step up to the plate to make sure
Hmm.
that this thing happens?
Yes, sir. Again, I was doing events for about 8, 9 summers, right? So the thing, raising awareness in the community about basic education and culture is a lot of people that have no idea what Juneteenth is. And I was a
Hmm.
little bit embarrassed myself because I was like 26, 27 when I learned. And I was like,
Right.
huh? That's a thing? Like that happened? It was free in Texas or all over in the South, free already. And they had no idea that they were free. And somebody came and told them. So that's kind of what in 2022, we still waking people up again. Like, hey, man, we free. You don't have to be enslaved to these things, to these systems, to these habits. And, you know what I mean? I'm
Hmm.
apologize. My daughter, she's right here. She's
Oh, you're fine.
um, probably getting hungry. She's amazing, though. But we don't have to be a slave to these things, man. And
Right.
it was just big. I was imagining in my head, like imagine somebody riding up on a horse and telling you, like, hey, what are y'all doing? Like, y'all free now. And then I thought about this too. I was like, it was probably a bunch of people out there was like, nah, I ain't leaving. I'm gonna stay here because we good. We here with Mac and them. They gonna feed us. They gonna take care of us. If we leave here, what we gonna do? People
Right.
are terrified. You know what I mean? So And that's something that we can, it's like a metaphor that we can relate to 2022. It's a bunch of ways that people are still thinking like that now. So we
Right.
gotta have these conversations and kind of shake people and change the narrative. I mean, paint a different picture for them, and then they're like, "Oh, I do kind of fit in that category." You got to be real
Mhm.
with yourself, man. And
Now
when I
you saying
learned
something.
what it was, I was already doing events, and a buddy of mine, he was like, "Oh man, we need to get people registered to vote." And I'm like, "Man, I wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't on my radar. I didn't care." And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do a basketball tournament, and the only way you can play is if you register. So we got like 60 people registered just from playing ball, and then
Wow.
I mean, we had a couple politicians come out and speak. It was about 5 or 6 years ago, but it's like once I added that to my events, it was more
Yeah.
than a party. You know what I mean? It was more than just selling T-shirts. It
Right.
was more than just it got a lot deeper, and I like that part. I mean, it's not easy, it's hard. I had to deal with the health department, I had to deal with the city manager, all these people calling me about, hey, do you have this? They did not believe we was gonna make that happen, man. They
Right.
thought we was gonna mess it up, we was gonna fumble, and they
Let,
was
let me
on
ask
me,
you
man.
this question. You say you've been doing
Woo!
this since when?
So we do it, bro. That's a big word for me right now, but we got to keep the momentum going. So I'm
Yeah.
glad just today, after yesterday, turn right around talking to know what you about it, man. So
There you go. How long you say you've been doing this? Uh,
2012, so it's 22 right now, and honestly, it's been about 9 years. I don't
right.
think we
So,
hit that threshold yet, but that first year we did an event because I grew up in those apartment town and those projects.
hmm
I grew up down there, and it was like that every single Sunday, but it was unorganized. It was just people. It was like that's why I say that part of town is the heart of the city because it was just like that. Every hood, every neighborhood, every other community would come there on Sundays and come play basketball, whatever, whatever. And um, I wanted to organize it. I went to college. I seen a bunch of stuff in Winston-Salem, and you know what I mean. It kind of gave me more energy. So I got
yeah.
home and I was like, "Yo, we gonna have a day party. We're gonna structure it. We're gonna give it. Um, we're gonna have events for the kids. We're gonna give back. We're gonna give scholarships. We're gonna figure out how if you're an artist and you can sing. So we did it a bunch of different ways every time, and like I said, every year it evolved. So
hmm
it went from just the T-shirts for the staff to everybody in the city wanted a T-shirt. So then it turned into a whole clothing line. You know what I mean? The young
Right.
executives, YE, not Kanye West out here talking about his name, Ye, and it's spelled YE, so everybody's getting confused. I'm like, no, man, I've been saying that.
You've been saying that. Kanye better stand down. Stand down, Kanye. Stand down. You know what I mean? So let me hear from David real quickly. So David, Juneteenth. Did you guys have anything like that in Springfield or up there?
Not that I know of. Not a program. No.
Okay. So when you hear Juneteenth, what comes to your mind? What comes to mind?
Yeah, I did, start doing more research into what it meant. I've heard it even before, they made it into a national holiday,
Right.
but it was
Mhm.
it was very, eye-opening to see that, that there was actually, like Preston just said, a whole, group of people,
Right.
after we had been freed, that didn't even know we were in freedom. And I
That's
like
wild.
I like I like that he said that, it's almost a metaphor. It is a metaphor, rather, for us. And the preacher side of me, automatically starts thinking that, how many of us, were living in bondage
hmm
and didn't even know that we were free, and were, essentially it's adhering to a legal system that we were no longer bound to,
Right.
just simply because we didn't have the knowledge.
hmm
And I was like, wow, you were free, you just didn't have the knowledge of your freedom. And like I said, the preacher side of me just said there's like 1,000 ways,
Yeah.
just on that alone, that you can really apply that. And
So true.
thinking about that is something that every culture, like, yeah, it means something particular to us as Black people in America, But
Uh-huh.
there's so many different ways that every culture can really, take something from this as a day of remembrance, to really focus on that. How do we apply that today? And I think that's
Hmm.
what makes it continue to mean something. Not just thinking about what happened then, but as we
Right.
go forward, how do we make sure that we're, as a people, educating ourselves, getting that knowledge to make sure that we are, living in the freedom that we do have as people. So it says a lot to me.
Yeah,
Wow.
I like that. I like that, man. I'm gonna interject real quick because you said other cultures, bro. Imagine how many of them don't even realize they are still, you know what I mean? At least we have Juneteenth, but in other cultures, they might not have anything, and they might not even
Right,
know that.
right.
Yeah, they are still. That's tough, right there. I like that part.
Well, here's my thing. We get together and we celebrate, but then we still go back home and we're still bound. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? And so that is very sad in and of itself, because so often, our people are celebrating. We get the I don't know, we get the Cadillac, we get the Mercedes, we get the Beamer,
Mm-hmm.
we get the 26s. You know what I'm saying? But we're still walking around, as my wife said, in mental slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes. Yeah.
so it's kind of sad that we celebrate for the weekend, but then the rest of the week we go right back to the bondage, which
Yeah.
is why
Right.
I believe that the changing of the guard is necessary, because we're losing a demographic, we're losing a group of people, because they're no longer, or let me say this way, because some of the people who are in leadership are no longer relevant.
Mm. Yeah, that's tough. That's
you know
tough there.
so people like you and David are necessary. You know what I'm saying? And so the Bible says he called the young because they're strong, and the old because they know the way. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is the devil lets them continue to know, lets the young continue to get strong, and keeps us from understanding we need each other in order to survive. There must be a changing of the guard.
Mm.
What comes to mind when
Absolutely.
you hear stuff like that?
Hey, something that's been big and heavy on me has been ego. And
Hmm.
I've learned to keep my ego either in the car, at the house, leave it at the house, put it in your pocket, take it off, and just listen and understand one another. That's one of the main things, just communicating. Even when it comes to changing the guard, I understand. Like for me, for instance, I have to put myself in this position because okay, it might be some kids that come along that want to do exactly what I'm doing at this same park. I
Hmm.
I don't own that park. That's not
Right,
my park. I can't say or Juneteenth is not mine. You know what
right.
I mean? So I can't be like, oh, it's another. You know what I mean? That is where the ego comes in, and that's one of the things that is just tearing our community up, man. It
I-
really is.
I'm gonna hear from
And
David here in just a minute, and I'm sorry to cut
sure.
you, because I'm getting ready to get messy now. Okay, I'm getting ready to get messy. I'm giving you
I
fair.
like it.
Okay, all right. A little birdie, sat on the line, and I heard the birdie singing and talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there were two separate committees, if you will. You had the older committee, and then you had the young folk.
Right,
Talk
right.
to me about that if you can. If you don't want to go there, you
Sure.
don't have to. But
I don't mind.
all right, so let's talk about it.
Right. So, make a long story short, there's a committee or there's a group of people that's been doing Juneteenth in Statesville for a
Hmm.
long time, right? And I actually went to that event years ago. And make a long story short again, George Floyd got killed. And I did a peaceful protest in Statesville. I didn't want anything going crazy. I was seeing it all on the news. People were knocking down Shell stations and CVS's. And I was like, before it even could get out of control, we went out there, we did a peaceful thing, you know,
Hmm.
and whenever we were out there, man, I tell you what, bro, I pulled up, I seen white people out there, they was there before me. They had signs, no justice, no peace, or whatever. There was about 20 people out there. Man, I looked up a couple 30, 40 minutes later, it was two, 300 people out there, man.
Nice.
So I was like, hey, let's
Wow.
walk. Let's go that way. Let's walk. So we walking and chanting, no justice, no peace. And when I tell you, I play basketball, I play sports all my life. And you know how you get the chills. You know how you just get that crazy hype energy.
Yeah.
I've never felt no energy like that
Wow.
before. We screaming no justice, no peace, and you can hear the echo coming from up the road. It's just bouncing off the buildings, man. And all right, boom. So I'm heavy on momentum, right? Um, so
Uh,
Juneteenth time was coming back up, and it was COVID season as well. So the
Mhm.
older guys, the ones that's been doing this for a long time, they decided not to do anything because COVID was, But in me, I was like, nah, we got to keep going. I don't want to stop. I do not want to stop. You feel me? So I called them, hey, we're gonna do Juneteenth at the park. Like, do you have any advice, any suggestions, anything, whatever, whatever, man. It was so many obstacles, bro. It rained cats and dogs that day and everything. We still went out there, people still came out there. Walmart gave us a gang of stuff like Carolina Duke jerseys, basketball goals, TVs to give away, raffle off or whatnot. And so boom, that was year one of Juneteenth for me.
Okay.
And I'm keeping in touch with them, letting them know, hey, come out and okay, boom. So then year two, last year, it was bananas. It was humongous. It was the only one that happened for 2 years in a row. And then year three, boom, we're still in touch, still in conversation and whatnot. And I reached out to them, so we formed a committee. It was all of us on it, right? um, like meet my young executives and their group as well. And basically, when it came down to the details, when it came down to, I kind of see now, when you collaborate and the ego stuff gotta just stay at the house because my thing was, this is the God honest truth. We had a meeting in October. We've been meeting since October, mind you. It is January, bro. I mean, excuse me, it's June. But we had been meeting since October. So man, I'm tired, man. But yeah, I'm gonna keep it pumping. It's a long
Mhm.
time. And it was just little stuff, man. Basic stuff like, all right, who we gonna use for this? Who we gonna use for that? The stage, the DJ. I'm like, this is my game plan. This is how I do it. This is how I've been successful. Like, here's my notebook with everything in it. This is what I did. This is my blueprint. And it was just kind of like, nah, we gonna vote on it. And anything I had, they was shooting it down, man. And it was just like, huh? We winning. It's successful. It's positive. The white folk ain't give me no trouble. I had no problem. You know what I mean? Everything was good. The permits, the insurance. You know what I'm saying? That's the only resistance that I got, man. And like I said, in October, we decided we're gonna do a 2-day event. Well, we didn't necessarily decide on a 2-day event, but I was like, in order for me, I want to do it at Kimbrough Park because we did it there for the last few years, and it's just a good thing. It's the momentum is good. The people love it. Why we change on them? Like, I don't want to change on them right now. Like it's gonna be, weird. So I don't know if you went to both events yesterday and today, but you could kind of see one event was like 50 and up almost, and then our event was all inclusive. We were focused on diversity and making sure the kids had stuff to do. And I had a bunch of folks call me like, hey, the reason why we prefer it at the park is because it's just more comfortable. We can't really chill downtown like we want to. We can't set our tents
Right.
up.
Right.
We
Right.
can't do some of the things we do in the park. It's easier. And eventually, man, make a long story short again, I just kind of gracefully told them, hey, whatever y'all need help with, let me know. And I'll be happy to help. Like, y'all have all my vendors, everybody I've used. I want all these black folks to make money. So I'm not gonna be like, hey, don't go to their event, only come to mine. That's
So,
crazy.
so if I'm understanding you correctly, the events that took place downtown was the older
Mhm.
group who went that direction, and what took place on Sunday was pretty much the young executives.
Correct, correct, correct. And we voted too, man. I wanted to be downtown. I did,
Yeah.
but I wanted to be in the hood, in the community as well,
You know, I,
because it's a lot of kids in that community that can't get downtown. They don't go over there, man.
exactly. Exactly. And I don't understand, and we'll hear from you, Dave, here in just a moment. I don't understand why we start out doing something for the community, for the inner city kids, and then when we get to a point where we think we're successful, we then want to shift it and move it. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
almost like it's defeating the purpose, and it I think it sends mixed signals telling those in the hood that the hood ain't good enough. So we'll do something for you, but it's got to be done over here because where you at, it ain't good enough. So it almost creates a perpetual issue if you're not careful.
yeah, yeah, man. A big issue, man. And it was really a humongous elephant in the town, just walking through the town, man. Honestly, so I'm glad you know brought it up and addressed it, and like I'm open about it. I don't feel any kind of way about it. Me and Adib, he's the guy that um we were co-chairs, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
co-chairman of that project, and like everybody just couldn't get on the same page, but it's okay. There's no bad bad there's nothing out there that's negative from me and from him. We've met, sat down and met. I'm sharing their flyers, they're sharing mine. It's all good, you know what I mean? Me and him, that the morning of it, Saturday, I sent him a picture of Kobe and Shaq, like, hey, it didn't work out with Kobe and Shaq.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
okay though. I'm
Let,
rooting for you, and it's gonna
let's
be
get a
dope. It's gonna be beautiful.
let's get a perspective from David. David, what you got to say about this whole topic here, man? I'm sure you have experienced some of these similar woes, obstacles, decoys, and whatever else you want to call them. But what's your take?
I was, as you were talking, I was thinking about 2007,
Hmm.
when the iPhone gets released,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and nobody really knows at that time like how our world was getting ready to shift dramatically. Um, we all had phones, cell phones, and everything like that, but
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
they were not yet as integral as a part of our lives as what they are now. I mean,
Facts.
like the reality is right now you have the whole world in your pocket, and you have access, you have a platform now, in your pocket, right?
Hmm.
You can pick up at any time, and there are people. I was looking at a video by Kev on Stage, and he was saying that, for people that were saying, how'd you get where you are, and he went back to some of his earlier videos when he was just recording little videos on his cell phone, and now he's got his own company, and he has his own studio and all of these things, but
Mm-hmm.
he started out just every day dropping a little video. And I say this to say that I can remember then and prior to, when we were just starting to get into websites and stuff like that. And I was in high school and we were learning how to design websites,
Hmm.
and we wanted to, hey, this we need to get the church on the website, like that was our immediate thought was, wow, this is cool, like we should put the church on here. And we weren't prepared, to be met with the resistance that we were met with, because the older generation couldn't understand it. It was, we heard things like, well, this is of the devil, the church shouldn't be on there, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And for us it was very debilitating, because this was our world that we were starting to really come up in. Even Sheldon, Pastor MacGyver, you know, being on the radio at that time, gospel ambassador years prior to it, and all the stuff that's going on
Yeah.
during there, and we had no idea of what was going to happen, but we all felt that inclination that something is shifting,
Hmm.
and again, there's this division there. And fast forward, um, I can remember in 2008, I was working at Comcast, and we
Hmm.
had a meeting. This is not too long. This is a year after the iPhone gets released. And I started out as installing cable television, and we have a meeting, and they say to us, we're not going to be a cable television company in 10 years. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Your Comcast, you're always going to be. They said, we're shifting from a cable television company. We're not going to, they still are known by the consumer, typically thinks cable, but they're
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
really a media company. They bought NBC Universal. They They really pushed internet to the employees. They said, yeah, sell TV, but we're pushing internet because they knew that cord cutting was coming. So the thing they said to us then was, our runway is short to catch this move. They said if we don't do it, they literally foresaw what was getting ready to happen. And fast forward again, here we are. We kind of doubled down on what we knew as church. We're going to do it this way. We're not changing. We're not shifting. And we go into, we start seeing apps starting to really get developed. And so when the churches started going towards websites, the businesses were going towards apps. So we were kind of always playing catch up. We were like, we're always playing behind the ball.
And it's hard.
I see you.
When we should have been streaming, like more, we started going on TV. And I knew churches that were getting excited, like, we're going on the radio now. And I'm like, yeah, we should have been on the radio 30 years ago. Now we should. Then when we should have been on TV, now we're getting on TV, but now we should be on Facebook. And then 2020 hits, and I would say nobody, but a lot of people weren't prepared. And here it was where you had a whole generation that was saying this for years. For years. And the reality is that for many of us, we were stuck because we had a message, but they had a platform. And we felt like we were stuck with our message.
Say that again, brother. Say that one more time.
One more time. That's hard.
we had a message, but they had a platform. And so typically for the most part, we were held in check because it was always, if you don't shift your message to meet our standards, then you can't use our platform. And so we were authenticated by who had the platform. But then 2020 kind of comes in and things shift. And it's like, wait a minute, I can build my own platform. And now we have an issue where it's you have a generation who is saying, look, if you want to hold the platform hostage, then I don't have to wait for your platform. I can build my own platform. And people are recognizing this in this generation. And the issue is, and going back to what Sheldon, what you were saying this a moment ago about the old and the young, is that because this divide was created, which didn't have to be, there are some out there that are creating platforms without the guidance, but we could have had the connection where it was, yes, okay, create this platform. So to speak, I use this as an example. In our ministry now, we have a lot of young people that are ready to do things. So this is what, I met with them and I said, listen, you guys want to use TikTok. Why don't you start building videos off of the message that is preached on Sunday, put it in your words, and we'll let you run the TikTok that is given by the church. So let them express themselves. They're creative. Let them be creative. Let them do it. But so that is the when we talk about the changing of the guard, we have to recognize that, listen, they can do it differently than what I can do it. I saw some of the content that they were creating in their teens, and I already could see that, you know what? It's my job now to kind of guide them, because the shift is already, and I can't see let happen to them what happened kind of like to our generation, right? So that they can have the guidance, they can have the voice, they can have the platform, and let them kind of go with it.
Yeah. And then you still got your hands on there too, man. So it's not like you completely out the loop.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Absolutely.
So essentially what you're doing is you're helping to create a lane for them. But then they have a lane that's created for them, but they're funneling your content through their lane. So it's really powerful when the young and the old understand that they can work together, because it's not that one is coming for the other one, but we're here to work together. I'm going to put a word on the screen, and I want to hear from both of you guys, because I really appreciate this kind of conversation. Um,
Likewise.
and I believe it's necessary. And so there it is right there. What comes to mind? Leadership.
Hey, real quick, first
Yes, sir.
off, first thing, man, I seen something the other day and it was like, dang, in 20 years, who gonna be the pastors? Who gonna be the
Hmm.
who
Hmm.
gonna say this stuff?
Right. Right.
And it was wow, bro. And to me, that was a very profound thought. Like I was just like, I was thinking of my homeboys, I'm thinking of everybody, and I'm just going down the line. And one kid came to mind, honestly. But leadership to me is super, super important, man. And I I'm telling you, me and this same guy that I'm thinking of, he called me. He's like, bro, I just need to come to your house. I just need to come hang. I need to come chill. I need to come talk. I'm going through with my wife.
Hmm.
Um, and like for somebody to call me and give me that,
Hmm.
man, I almost dropped everything I was on doing and just took that in and vibed with him and
Yeah.
gave him my energy and my time. And to me that was awesome for a grown man to call me and say that. I was just like, you know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? So that right there kind of let me know that yeah, somebody I'm a leader too. I actually used to coach this young man in basketball. He was maybe a junior. He's 27 now. So just keeping that connection and keeping that for all these years. And he's a grown man now. He still call coach and be like, hey man, I need to holler at you. I need to come talk. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? To me, that was really, really one of the highlights of my year, 2022. I
Nice.
got like a crazy top 10, but that right there is
Hmm.
I felt that, man. And I'm always he actually even started a clothing brand as well. It's called I Am a Voice. I
Hmm.
definitely got to get you connected with him so that y'all can speak. He's a very wise young man.
Nice.
And just stuff like that, man. Leadership is important. That kind of lets you know that they watching. They
Hmm.
definitely watching everything you do. My son, he's 2 years old. He's a complete sponge, and he's doing everything already. He's a little bit too quick. I have to tell him to stop, chill. That's you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like even from my son up to people that I'm coaching in basketball, leadership is important because trust and believe they are watching. And the thing about it, I think, is communication. Sometimes they don't know how to communicate things. So they do it or they show you in ways that's not, nonverbal communication.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, they really do that. And but me, I'm watching. I'm seeing everything. I'm trying not to miss anything. So I'm on point and I kind of peep it and I call them on it. I'm like, I see you. But it's good stuff for the most part, Like
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any of these young boys, and I'm on them too, man. Being in this position, I'm a head coach of a travel basketball team, and
Nice.
we going to Winston, Charlotte, we all over the place, right? And these boys, we're going down to Fayetteville. These boys are grown ups. They think anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and then you definitely have to be creative. You have
Hmm.
to be able to keep their attention. You have to be able to speak their language, just like Brother David was saying to TikTok and stuff. Like you definitely got to be able to meet them where they are and then bring them up um without without stepping on their toes too much. Cause I'm one of those coaches. I'm on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I know how sharp, I know how smart they are.
Hmm.
And it's just like if y'all talk like that, when y'all don't know I'm listening, man, them boys got some mouths on them, right? So for me, it's just like, yeah, coming from this position and being a leader, I try to show them stuff like what we did yesterday. And they're like, oh, it's way more out here than just being a rapper or just being a basketball player, or it's so much more we can do. And I want them to
Absolutely.
think like that, man, because that is not it. It's so much more, bro. You could be a nurse, dude. They probably think that's funny. When you hear it, it might not sound right. But bro, you could be a nurse. I know men that are nurses making good money,
Oh
taking care of their
yeah.
family, their
Absolutely.
community. You know what I'm saying? But they have to start thinking like that early. So I plant seeds. I'm always trying to embed something in them and giving them ideas, making them think like, what's your favorite class, bro? Like, let's talk about something different. Like,
Mhm.
and why do you like math? Why do you like that? Oh, you might be able to, you need to look into this. Man, I got some kids that straight A students, and I'm talking about they are, really good on the basketball court. Like,
Let me ask you this, Preston.
yes, sir.
You are a leader indeed. Okay. Um, if you had to liken your leadership style to someone, who would that
Mm. That's a big question, man. Because first thing came to my mind was Tupac.
be? Okay. Okay. Now, Tupac was a sharp individual. You know,
Sharp, bro.
I mean, and so I mean, if that's what it is, then that's what's up.
It really is, bro, because honestly, nothing else came to mind. Right soon
Hmm.
as you asked it, I was like, and because it's deeper than the music, I like his poetry.
Yeah.
I just his philosophies on life, man. His birthday was actually June 16th, and I made a post and I went through and was looking up some of his quotes from
Right.
over the years, and I posted like 10 of his quotes with a picture, and I was just like, this is my mood right now. Like, yeah,
I'm gonna
that
hear
guy
from.
was powerful.
He really was indeed. I'm gonna hear from David, but I gotta ask you this: are you quotable?
Yeah, you can definitely quote some of that.
Okay, so you're quotable. I mean, do you live your life in such a way where your team can quote you? Are you giving them nuggets in such a
Oh my
way that
goodness.
they can quote you?
Hey, one time right here, at the basketball games,
Uh-huh.
we're on the court. Don't be selfish on the court. Everybody can eat. So everybody
Hmm.
eats on three. And they were
Hmm.
looking at me crazy. But
Hmm.
now, once they started understanding, they're like, everybody eats. They're saying it louder than they
Yeah,
did that first time.
yeah.
So, boom, the same meeting I'm having with my Juneteenth ladies, we're kind of eating, we do cheers. Everybody eats on three. Man, they was lit. So, yeah,
I said
definitely.
I said something the other day, and then Dave, I ask you to jump in. It might have been earlier today, as a matter of fact. Um, if we're talking and it's not edifying, helping, building, strengthening, or it's not quotable, then they're just idle words. And we have to give an
Mm-hmm.
account for every idle word. So
Mm-hmm.
we need to try to live in such a way that when we do open our mouths and speak, it doesn't have to necessarily be profound, but it has to be so um
It gonna stick to your ribs.
it, it's
It's
got
gonna
it's got to
stick.
have substance to where somebody can say, you know
Yeah.
what, that's quotable. Let me quote him. David Eady, when you see and hear the word leadership, sir, what comes to mind?
The balance between inspiration and information.
Mm,
I think it's key because as a leader, um, you know, there are a lot of people who exist that say they're leaders, but they're more so, managers. Managers can tell you, well, this is my responsibility. I can tell you what to do, but leaders really inspire people to do what they might not want to do or even think
mm,
they can do.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
mm.
I think when I look at this last NBA Finals,
Yes, sir.
and everyone was saying, and that on paper, and probably even more so talent wise, that the Celtics, which I'm here from Massachusetts, were built to win this finals.
Hmm.
And when I looked at Game 5, which was the game that Steph Curry, he didn't have a great game. He didn't score. He wasn't dropping threes.
Terrible.
But
Yeah.
I looked at how the team rallied, and I
Mm-hmm.
said that I knew in that moment that they were going to win the finals, because even
Mm.
though he wasn't playing well,
0 for
just him
9, if
being
I
on
ain't
the court
mistaken.
inspired the
Mm-hmm.
people around
Yeah.
him. Say, you know what, our leader's not where he should be. Let's step up to make sure we get
Ooh.
him there. And they did. Without him, they still rose to the occasion and beat the Celtics that night. And that
Yes, sir.
when that happened, I knew it wasn't the talent that was going to cause them to win, even though the Warriors are a very talented team. But it wasn't just talent that caused them to win this last one. If you
Okay.
go back and watch the games, they were inspired. They had heart. They had a
Hmm.
determination. They had something. It was an intangible element. And to me, when I look at that, that's what to me leadership is.
Man,
and I
that
think
was
so often, we miss it because we think about responsible. Well, this is my title, this is my position, and if you don't listen to me, you're not being obedient, you're not being submissive. But it's not just telling somebody to do it. That's because that's what they're supposed to do. But man, if you can inspire it, and just real quick before I stop, one of the things I like to look at, and just the preacher side of me again, I got to drop a little bit in there. I like when I look at Moses and Joshua, right? Because one of the things that inspires me in that story is Joshua didn't just come out of nowhere. Like
Right.
Joshua was with Moses. I would love if I could go back and look in between the text and actually be there. I would love to see their interactions that are not written down, because there were so often where Joshua was just at the base of the mountain, or just with Moses in these parts of his life where not everybody was, but he was there, and Moses was grooming Joshua for leadership, even possibly before Joshua even knows that he's being groomed for leadership.
Right.
So when it's time for the changing of that guard, there's no surprise. There's no surprise to Joshua. There's no surprise to Moses, and there's no surprise to the people that Joshua now has to go forward and lead. And I think that's very key in leadership is to lead. You have to always be preparing for those who are going to come after you, because if what you're leading in fails after you're gone, then were you really leading? Or was it like Preston just said, was it just your ego that was in charge?
So what a lot of people get mixed up is the fact that just because they're in front, they think they're leading,
Right.
And so I've got this saying, leaders lead, right? Good leaders attract, great leaders inspire, but exceptional leaders know when to step aside. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, saints and ain'ts, everybody, including Lottie Dottie, is where we have to get to. We've got to get to the point and place where we are exceptional leaders and we know when to step aside. Otherwise, we're doing our organization, our church, our business, our family an injustice. Business wise, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 17. Literally, I opened my first business. I was 17 years old, Hotspots Variety Store, and I never looked back. I always kept my hand, in some kind of entrepreneurial role. My son now, he's rising in ranks, and so years ago we started an LLC, McLeod Enterprise, and I'm pretty much turning it over to him, because he's at a place where he's ready to take off. I'm at a place where I'm ready to plateau. I want to hang out with my wife, ride across America and everything, and so we're both looking at things from a different perspective, but I understand he is where I was. You understand what I'm saying? And so there are some things that he will call me on, we'll talk about. He don't really want to hear it because he already know how I'm gonna approach it or whatever. But we're both learning to appreciate each other. You understand what I'm saying? And be able to identify that regardless of what we have is good. We might not be seeing eye to eye, but we've got to figure a way to see eye to eye. But I said all that to say this: I know when to step aside. Like you said, David. I believe every Moses needs a Joshua. Every Paul, needs a Timothy. You know what I'm saying? And so, do you gentlemen? I get it. You guys are still young. You guys got many more years in front of you. But if you can already begin to identify your Timothy and your Joshua, you will be leaps and bounds above them all. Because here's the deal: I can hoard everything to me. I can micromanage everything. And when I die, it dies with me. But if I begin to point out Joshua's and Timothy's and begin to make leaders not be intimidated by strong leaders, then when it's time for me to step aside, I'll step aside, but don't have to fall aside.
Right.
And so I'll say this and then I'll shut up. In my
You
opinion,
spitting, man. You spitting.
in my opinion, our black churches, and I can only speak for black churches because, but anyway, in my opinion, our black churches are suffering because our pastors, our leaders, they hoard the pulpit. Well, not necessarily pulpit, but the leadership role until they're way up in their age. And like Eli, he was fat and going blind, and so they wait so long, and then when they transition, those who are left behind are scraping to put things together. Nothing was really put in place. They weren't really trained or groomed, and so there's usually no smooth transition. When you look at most churches, after the leader dies, after the pastor dies, normally there's a fallout. Normally there's a church split, and at best there's a good number of people that leave, even if it's not so much a split or whatever. But because there wasn't a Joshua or a Timothy put in place. What do you guys got to say?
I agree. I think 100% that when you look at how typically structurally we set things up, we kind of set it up in a methodology in which everything resides or rests in one individual. And I think the framework is kind of a faulty from that start. When you look at, if you go back, even if you want to go back and scripturally speaking, like when you look at what a pastor does, it's typically reserved for a more younger person, not saying that people can't pastor as they're older, but there was a certain level of strength and vigor that was necessary in order to do a lot of that groundwork. And that's why when Paul was talking to Timothy, he instructs Timothy and says, don't rebuke the elders, because the elders were there, to guide Timothy as a younger pastor. So Paul was saying, look, you need them in your ministry. Don't rebuke them. Don't reject them. Listen to what they're going to say. But going back to what we said earlier, that balance was necessary, that you needed to have the wisdom of that older generation to say, hey, look, maybe think about this right here. But yet, and still, you needed that relevance of the youth to say, okay, look, this is how we need to navigate that. And I'll just use this as a personal example. After 2020, I think we all can say that all of us knew that church as we knew it was not going to go back to the way that it was. And it didn't mean that we weren't going to have in-person services, but we knew that a shift transpired that we were forced into. Like we were like, okay, you don't want to hit this shift. You're forced into this shift. And Sheldon, you and I, we had several conversations on this, that to a certain extent, the playing field was kind of leveled out.
In
2020.
Absolutely.
And it didn't matter whether you were a mega church or a small church, the opportunities were there to do certain things. And I was again surprised with some of the resistance, because we were saying, look, this is what we need to do. We need to start investing resources into, I actually started putting my own money into some of our equipment, because we need to get some equipment to help out with our streaming. We need to, and I was surprised that, well, we don't want to do that. We need to, focus more on getting the building back together. I'm like, yeah, the building will be here, but we need to do this. And I think that when you're at that point, and when you say, when to step aside, when you're at that point to where you're resistant to where the move is transpiring as a whole, when you look at, companies, why Bill Gates stepped aside from Microsoft, or why the Disney CEO just stepped aside. That happens when they recognize, what, I've taken this to a place where my realm of expertise is, but now I got to bring somebody in that knows how to navigate this situation. And that's where a lot of times we get into that tug of war, almost, if you will, begins to happen, because I still want to be relevant. And it's not that you aren't relevant, but you kind of got to find that next phase of where your relevancy lies in. Absolutely. And so if I'm fighting it, if I'm fighting this generation, if I'm fighting the youth to be on TikTok, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not old, but I really don't have a desire to be a TikToker. I'm
Okay.
it's just, it's not my
I
thing.
do good just on, I can't do all them other social medias.
Yeah,
I
I
I
mean,
did
can't
my
do it.
first one the other day, bro.
I
My little cousin, she pulled her phone out and she was dancing, and then I hopped on there with it. I couldn't believe I did it either. She sent it to me today. I'm screaming. I gotta send it to y'all.
Yeah,
so,
man.
speaking to what you said though, David, you have levels, you have dimensions, you have realms,
Yep.
okay? And so, the level is, let's see, the level is the payphone, okay?
Hmm.
The dimension is the beeper, and the
Yep.
Hmm.
realm is the cell phone, And
Yeah.
so they running around here talking
That's
about, "Stop
hard.
here, let me get a couple dimes because I gotta go use the payphone,
Yeah.
not
Ooh.
realizing that, we are already, acquainted with the shift, accepted the shift, and so that's what comes to my mind when we have leaders that don't want to step aside, and they will hurt the organization because they don't want to step aside. They're still talking about, I'm on level 20. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't care what level you're on. You can continue to go up and up and up, but you're always on levels. You're only accomplishing another level where the next generation can take it from levels to a dimension. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm.
completely different.
Yeah,
Can
man.
I say this real quick?
Yeah,
Go
absolutely.
ahead. Go ahead.
Just today, and this is just as an example, of some of the things that's been happening recently. I was reached out to by someone who's in the fire department, whose
Hmm.
husband's in the fire department, and said, we were looking at your Facebook, and we were interested in whether or not you'd be willing to come out and do some motivational speaking there in that. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm used to being behind the pulpit, right?
Hmm.
But then it's like, well, a lot of the things that we say, and God will open up a door, like you said. I'm bringing you from a level to another dimension, but we want to exist in the level that we're comfortable in because
Right.
I know how to do this. But God says, yeah, I need to open up a door for you here. And this is what happens typically that I've seen is that when God opens that other door, well, I'm not going to bring somebody else through to where I was, to make another opportunity. Well, you know what? I'm just going to do both opportunities. I'm gonna operate in both. And I think that as God, and I think Sheldon, you said it earlier, and I think it's very powerful when you said that, it's not that you're done, but you realize, I need to move up here. So I'm gonna make this way for my son to come into this
Mm.
level while I'm going to this realm right here. So it's not like you're saying, well, you know what, I'm gonna try to hold both of them down. And so we've existed in in the church world, at least, it's not uncommon to have one person who has 10 positions. And
Hmm.
what that says to the people is that there are not 9 other people anywhere who's qualified to take one of those positions that you have.
Right.
And I
Right.
think
Right.
we need to be careful of that, as that we see those doors open. And that's what leadership is, that we don't hold them all and hoard them to ourselves. We create the opportunities for another person who's hungry, who's creative, who's inspirational, who has an ability to step in and say, look, I can, and show the trust in them.
Mhm.
Hey, you can do this. You mean me? I can, yeah, you can do this. You
Yeah.
got this. I'm gotta go over here and handle this. So I know you got this right here. And I think that's where God moves us to.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Absolutely. 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 Um,
Super important.
what you got to say on that person? You got anything you want to say?
Same thing, man. I gotta find my next group of young executives. I need help. I don't necessarily want to be out there, for a whole year. I want the help. I want to give them the information and the jewels. And man, man, what my boy said, what did he say? Information and inspiration, that
That's
part, the
right.
balance between that, man,
Yeah.
that's big, right? And yeah, we gonna need our Scottie Pippins and our Draymond Greens to be on our team as we navigating and facing these big crazy obstacles. Like, yeah, dream team is everything. Put one together, man, and you
Make it do
know,
what it do. Make it do what
oof,
it do. Look, we want to
important.
thank everybody for pressing play and joining the Retro Philosophy Show on tonight. The number is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. 980-222-4492. We are blessed tonight to have with us David Eady and Preston Wasson. These are two sharp individuals. They are leadership at its finest. And I think that that's a good segue, because a lot of people think that leadership has to be perfect. And sometimes leadership is not perfect, but leadership should perfectly understand its mission, its audience, And I think that a lot of people are intimidated because they have picked up people who was not part of their targeted audience. But remember, I said leaders lead, okay? So a lot of times we have people who are out front, and so just because they're out front, they say, okay, well, I'm leading. You are, but you're not. We're really all going in the same direction. You just happen to be out in front, and so we're following you because you was there first. But then you also have to attract.
Let
Leaders
me, bro. I
attract.
hope you're not just get me knocked off.
Say it again. No, you're still on. You're still with us, brother. And so leaders will also a good leader will also attract. Okay, and with that attraction, some of those that you attract will also be leaders that will one day possibly potentially take your place. But then you can't stop there because you are in front and people have come, but you have to make sure that you are doing what's necessary so you can also inspire them. Okay, now I've got these people, I'm in front, they've came, but now I have to make sure that I inspire them. It looks like we might have lost Preston. But and then after that, you've attracted them, you've inspired them. Now you've got to give them the space to do what you've inspired them to do. And
Yes.
so I think that's very important for us to understand. David, if you will, go ahead and take that right there. Reaching the lost. What does that mean to you?
I think that when it comes down to when we talk about reaching the lost, number one, we have to establish in our mind, what does it mean? What do we, when we say lost? Because in our mind, we could see and view people as lost that are not viewing themselves as lost.
Okay.
Are we
That's good.
saying lost based upon our denominational belief system, or are we talking about people who are just having a difficult time in life? What is our modus operandi, if you will, and when it comes down to defining what are or who are these individuals that are lost? Because I think that we could run the risk of offending those that we're trying to reach if we classify people in the position of being lost and say, look, no, I know who Jesus is, or I'm good in my life. So I think that when we talk about that, reaching the lost, we're really kind of creating an atmosphere where those who are looking for something can come to find it, right? So
Okay.
we're going to be out there, we're going to the community, having the events, doing the different things like that, but we're creating that safe environment in which people that are wandering can find it, and they can say, look, yes, this right here is speaking to me. And in that, I think it's key to identify the prevailing issues that are in a certain area. Are you in an area in which opioids is prevalent, and we know that this is an issue, but we're gearing ministry towards something that doesn't speak to that.
Right.
And so oftentimes I think we can fall into that because we try to to throw our net out in a place, and honestly, that goes back to why Jesus even said that in the scripture. We're throwing our net out in a place where we're trying to reach fish where there are none, and Jesus said, look, throw it on the other side. I know where what you're trying to reach, know where they are and who they are. And I think that's key, knowing the issues that in the community that you're trying to serve, what is actually speaking to people. And I think that we miss that because, again, just to finish this up, if we're going out and we're trying to preach a message that's not reaching the people that we're attempting to preach it to, because it makes sense to us, but it's not speaking to them, then we're not going to be effective. So when I think reaching the lost, I think making a space that is safe where people that need can come and say, okay, yeah, this place can meet the need that I have.
That's good. My pet peeve is, outreach, and I think what you're saying speaks to that because we got so many people that are doing outreach, but they're literally doing just that. They're outreaching the people, like you mentioned opioids, you trying to feed them, but food is not their problem. They got
Right.
food at home, they're addicted to drugs or whatever. So, we're throwing food in their face when in all actuality, they may need a 7-step program or whatever. And then
Yeah,
I know we got
they
some
don't
folks
even
out
hungry.
here, right? So we're
Right.
outreaching them. We're not reaching them where they are. And so we like
That
to
was
see instead of
good.
doing outreach, we are just simply reaching out. And sometimes in order to do that, you got to get some boots on the ground. You got to ask questions. You got to mingle with these people before you come up with a plan of action that, like you said, David, it may offend them. You're calling them lost. Number one, they don't see themselves as lost. You broke, busted, and disgusted, but telling them they lost. And so we've got
Hello.
to be very careful. We've got to be very, very careful. I think that when I say we, the church has created a culture that is no longer effective in the streets. Preston, you got your ear
I
to the street.
agree. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Do you have your ear to the streets?
I do, man.
Okay, I
Feet,
figured you did. I
ears,
figured you did.
trying to keep my head, wrapped around everything. It's important because
So
if we
what's the
don't,
streets? What's the street saying about church?
oh, that's what I was saying earlier. I kind of threw it out there, like who's gonna be the next pastor around here where we from? I have
Mhm.
no idea. Anybody my age, 34, I'm 34 years old, and I be looking around, I'm just like, I ain't really seeing nobody. But then it'd be me that'll plant that seed in somebody like, hey bro, we might need something with a,
Mhm.
But you definitely have to do that, man. Reaching the lost is super important. I mean, I've been in places, everybody grieve different. Man,
Mhm.
one time my father died and I was 28, and it was just super dark for me.
Yeah.
And um, I had all my stuff together. I was doing everything I needed to be doing, moving in the right direction and everything. And it was like so dark. I was like, how long am I about to grieve? How long? So that might have been a summer where I missed a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
So I'm mindful of that. So I can kind of tap in and check myself because I realized I was once lost and I was grown. I was an adult. So just being aware of myself, like um being able to speak that language to these kids whenever they don't even understand because I know they're not gonna get it. If that happened to them, you know how you lose someone when you're 12, 13, 14, and they don't know how to even feel. So as an adult, when I went through it, and I literally think it was about maybe a year and a half, 2 years before it was I felt like me again, you know?
Mhm.
So
Wow.
it's super important for me to just stay in touch. And if I feel like you might be lost, or if I feel like you in that dark place, I'm always, you know, giving that information and trying to connect dots and trying to, encourage somebody to, tighten up, man. It's simple as that.
Wow.
Get
It's
this
just a
thing straight.
text message.
Yeah. 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 We
Wow.
we, we got to be mindful, man. There's no reason why we should have any soldiers left behind, man. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and shift. I don't want to, press the people too long. But let's go ahead and look at this: the passing of the baton, the process, and the responsibility. In your mind, what is the process, or maybe I should say, what is the proper way for a baton to be passed, and what kind of responsibilities go along with that? Who wants to jump in on
Ooh, I like that.
that? Go ahead
Hey,
and
for
you
me,
work with it. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
For me, man, it's about communication. Because if
Okay.
you don't even know I'm about to pass it, you're going to drop it. You're going to
Yeah.
fumble and you're not going to be ready. And it's going to set us back 8 years. So
Hmm.
communication is super important whenever you're doing that. And that person, you kind of grooming them, you kind of giving them the information, but they got to really be willing and want it. You can't just put it on somebody because they might not even know it's their time. You know, it's hard to force it on someone. They gotta be aware of it.
Hmm.
And um I mean, you give them all the information you can give them sometimes, and they still don't work. You can give them your whole blueprint, your whole notebook with all your information, and it still don't work. And it's just, things like that. So then for me personally, I kind of was looking like, dang, what I do? Or I was trying to pass it, or I was trying to give it. I'm trying to,
Mhm.
be in the moment, be present. I'm trying to build and everything. Like I know I'm big on foundation.
Okay.
So like, if that foundation's straight, even if y'all fall, you ain't gonna, it's not a sinkhole. So, just communicating. And that's one thing as us black people, we are not the most efficient communicators,
Agree.
and
Agree.
then sometimes um, we get our feelings hurt, we get our feet stepped on, we sensitive
Mhm.
about our stuff, we love what
Yeah.
and it's a matter of, you gotta have thick skin. I know I do. I have to. It can
Hmm.
be thicker because sometimes I'll be like, huh? But passing of the guard, passing the baton, communicate, man. Make sure they know what's coming, make sure they ready. And that's kind of what I need to do more of right now. So that's a great question. I need to
Okay.
make sure
I
everybody
want to,
ready.
I want to go back to something you said. Okay. I
Sure.
agree. Communication is key. Now, in the event that the baton is dropped, okay,
Hmm.
who is to blame?
That's a good question. Initially, if you passing it, person he's already trying to run, they trying to take off, so I'm thinking it might be the person that you handed it to. Well, I don't like to point no fingers either, but when you first think about it, they taking off too fast, or they not, they got nervous maybe, or so, you kind of, because the person that's coming to pass the baton, you can see it. You see them, you see their hand, and you thinking about it on the way to them and everything. So if you fumble it, it's like a running back. You give them the ball. Now, yeah, sometimes the quarterback got sloppy feet. Tripped
Yeah.
over the feet and they don't fumble. But I think in track it's a little different. You passing that baton, you can see them, and that person that's what I kept saying. Got to be ready.
Okay, so here's my take on it, and then we're going to hear from David. There has to be practice before the meet. Okay, so we got a big meet coming up with our rival high school or college or whatever.
Hmm.
There's practice before the
Yeah,
actual meet. Okay,
exactly.
and so if I'm in leadership, I'm the pastor, I'm the CEO, I'm whatever, I'm the head, I'm the HNIC. Okay, and so
Hmm.
whoever's up next, there's got to be some practice, communication,
Yeah.
and we've got to have a space that allows for the dropping of the baton without it causing any, because any major issues, if you will. So a
Yeah.
drive run, you understand what I'm saying? They got to start somewhere. So I think that ultimately there could be blame on both parties, but ultimately I also think that those who are in position, I think more responsibility falls on them. If I give my son the task to mow the yard and I come home from work and he's got ditches and he just burnt the grass and tore it all up,
Mm,
he should have had enough sense to stop, halfway through and realize he couldn't do it.
mm.
But I also had the greater responsibility to teach him.
That's
So
facts.
we got too many leaders that are not teaching, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna pass it on to David. I am a product. I want to be careful how I say this,
Hmm.
so I'll say it like this: I've learned a whole lot more than I was taught. I'll leave it like that. I've learned a whole lot more than I
Me
was
too,
taught.
bro.
Yeah,
Me
yeah,
I
yeah.
too.
like that.
That's real talk.
That's super quotable.
Yeah, that's real talk right there.
That's real life, man. Me too. Jeez, go
Yeah.
ahead, D.
Go
Mr.
ahead,
David.
Dave.
So you guys said some great stuff there. I mean, I think that for me, when I think about passing the baton and the process, I think there has to be trust between the individuals, because I have to know that you have my best interest at heart as well.
Hmm.
Um, not only my best interest, but the interest of the team.
Mhm.
Because to a certain extent, when you're on a relay race, you kind of want to be that person that is, especially when you've been trained to be the winner, right? I think that for many of us, we've been kind of taught to run our own separate race, only to find out that we're in a relay race. And so then when it comes down to it, we're like, but I thought I was going to cross the finish line, but now I got to hand over everything that I've done for somebody else to cross the line. And those are things that I think I've experienced when it comes down to being in that, when you feel like you're that next person to take the baton. I feel like there's a hesitant that people don't mind the pass as much as they don't like letting it go. So they don't mind doing this and putting it towards your hand, but then you find out that when you get ready to take off, that they're still holding on to the baton as well. And I think that that's the part that holds us up. You're trying to run alongside of us. You're trying to run with me. And now you're slowing me down. And when you start kind of slowing me down, you start blaming me for not running right. But I can't run right because you won't let go. And you have to trust me in order to make my next leg. You have to trust me enough to let go of the work that you put in while you ran. And I think for too many people, you're thinking about what you did during your race, and you're afraid that the next person is going to mess up. And that's where that conflict comes in at. And Sheldon, you asked the question about whose fault it is. I think that when you look at it, the person who's going to take the baton you have the obligation to make sure you're holding on to it. You have that out. I have to make sure that I get that thing in my hand before I take off. Right. But the flip side of that, and you mentioned this as well, Sheldon, is that the person that's passing to me, they have the obligation to tell me or teach me what to look for when they're getting ready to pass it off. So there's those cues there when they're coming up. And if you change your cues at the last moment, and I was looking for you to do this, but now you're doing something totally different, and I'm confused. Now I'm trying to figure out, do I take the baton? Do I pull back? Do I start running? Because you've kind of changed up, and what you told me you were going to do all this time, you're no longer doing. And I think that that's where a lot of us during the process and the responsibility have lost trust, because now I can no longer trust your process, because when it came down to pass on again, either you decided to hold on or you decided to change your cue. So then when it fell, you could blame me, when in actuality you did something different than what I was looking for. And that's what I think we find ourselves in these moments, is that we forget that we're really on the same team. And if this doesn't happen smoothly, guess what? We all lose. Because that person, one of us is going to be the anchor. And the anchor is going to be that person who's going to take it in. The anchor had to stand there while everybody else ran, but the anchor is going to cross the finish line and get celebrated. The anchor gets to come by. The anchor gets that moment that nobody else is going to get. And we have to be okay with knowing that although I'm not the anchor, I was still part of the process. And if we can't be okay with that and knowing that it was still what I did, and I like to say this real quick, and I'll finish it out right here, is that when we look at in the church world, there was a generation that were builders. We shouldn't have pastors today that have to build churches, because the ones that built the ones 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago now say, well, I don't want to pass it on. So now we have people in this generation trying to build when we're not in the building generation. We should be able to take what was built. Well, you know what I did? Yes, I understand what you did with it. I get it. I got it. I get it. But if you want it to still be something, this is what we need to do now. And I think that's part of that process and responsibility, is the trust factor. Can you trust me to take the baton and move forward so that we all win?
You said something, and I'm scared to touch it because it's going to take us on a whole nother hour.
Tell Touch
But
it.
I got one too for you, bro.
go
Off
ahead, go
him.
ahead. I'll bow out to my guest. Go ahead, brother.
Hey, it was good. I was gonna say, you know how you have a conversation one day,
Uh-huh.
or have you ever been young and somebody told you something 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, just kind of like the analogy he made earlier, and then it finally hit you.
Hmm.
It'll hit you one day, and you like, man, we were just talking about this like 3 months ago, 4 months ago. But you have to be ready for that. Just like the baton, you have to be ready for that, even
Be
if
ready.
it's premature. If it's like, I think sometimes, like, I keep thinking about my kids I coach, also, with the pastors and all the things that we throwing out there, man. Like, they probably hearing it, and it's gonna hit them in like several months later. We gotta be more aware than that. It shouldn't take that long, and it shouldn't be. Yeah, man. Trust is key. You have to trust when somebody's telling you something that it's in good faith, and it's not. Everybody doesn't have ulterior motives, and I think whenever you meet somebody that doesn't have ulterior motives, it's kind of like, oh wow, is this for
Yeah.
real?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, dang, we get surprised. Like, we're so
It
happy
seems
and we're
like to
so
be true.
surprised when you meet good people.
Yeah, yeah. But you know
Yep.
what? There are good people out there. There are good people out there. I preached a message one time, and I often, reserve this word. Don't be afraid to do it again. Some of us, we've been
Mm,
wounded, we've been hurt, and we vow that I'll never do that again. I'll never let nobody hurt me like that again. But sometimes it
Mm,
wasn't the process that was flawed. You understand what I'm saying? And so, there are good people out there. We cannot stop just because we were hurt, misused, lied to, mistreated. We can't stop. We got to keep on
right.
yeah,
keeping on,
yeah,
and we cannot be
Absolutely.
afraid to trust.
that's true.
As India says, trust is key. And sometimes when you can't trust the people, you gotta
Mhm.
trust the process because a lot
It'll
of
discourage you. It'll make you want
people.
to quit. You don't
That's
want to be
right.
around them. You don't want
That's
to,
it.
you know what I mean? And then it's a whole lot that goes into that. Cause then you got anxiety, you can't sleep, all these things start to come in, into into your you,
Mhm.
oh God, it's draining,
So,
man.
so, so, Preston, let me
Those
leave this with
things.
you. Um, God never works from the outside in. He works from the inside out. So
Mm,
whenever something external is trying to disrupt your internal, it's a clear indication that that's probably of the devil. It's probably not of God. Now, don't get it twisted and think that God can't use it for his glory, but God doesn't work from the outside in. He works from the inside out. So the God that's in us, come on, somebody. The Bible says, greater is he that's within us than he that's within the world. You know what I mean? And so hold on one
Mhm.
second there. Amen. Oh, okay. And so he works from the inside out. Okay. And sometimes you got to bring your own amen. You hear what I'm saying?
That's too smooth. I
And,
like it.
and so and so lastly, God doesn't use tools of condemnation. And a lot of times people will say stuff and do stuff and want you to feel condemned, but that's not how God works. Now there
right.
will be consequences to our choices or the lack thereof, but God doesn't use tools of condemnation. So I want to encourage both of you guys because you guys are both at pivotal points in your life, whether you realize it or not. Not only pivotal points, but very strategically so. And I'll go a step further, and tell you that there's a fresh anointing that God is pouring out on both of y'all's lives. Okay,
Mm,
because as I
Jesus.
stated earlier, there are levels, there are dimensions, but then there are realms. Okay, don't settle for levels when God wants to bless you with dimensions. Don't settle for
Yeah,
dimensions
that
when God
was
wants to give you realms.
I had to
Yes.
write
Okay.
that down, bro. I
Yeah,
had to
write
write
write it down.
down
Write it
something
down.
bro said. Gotta write that part down. The payphone, the beeper, Wi-Fi, internet part. That was come on, man.
Yeah, I
We
mean
gotta make sure we give this information to people because in terms that they can
Yeah.
understand it in because I think that's gonna stick to some people. You know what I mean?
at some point we've got to learn. Like for me, for instance, been pastoring Upper Praise for 13 years, right? And several years in, I got very discouraged, because I had adopted an ideology or whatever you want to call it as to how this thing was supposed to work and what success was supposed to look like. Now, it was based on church culture and not so much kingdom mindedness. All right. And so I've got discouraged, and then God sits me down and he takes me back to the vision statement. Okay. And so that's why a vision is see, we have made a vision statement to be more so like a business
Yes.
business plan type of thing, when in all actuality it's not a business plan, it's the mind of God. Now
Yes.
it's easy for us to understand the will of God. You can pick up the Bible, you can find the will of God, but the mind of God is a whole nother dimension, because it's the mind of God that tells us how to do the will of God. Okay. Now, you're supposed to have a wife, but the mind of God will tell you that that's a chicken head, and that right there is a virtuous woman. Okay, so you know which one to go for, right? And so it's important that we understand that. And so he takes me back to the vision statement, the mission statement, and he literally starts taking me down at like a checkpoint. Are you doing this? Yes. Is this yes. He said, all right, then keep on going. You're successful. You're doing what you're supposed to do. And as long as you do what you're supposed to do, I'll do what I'm supposed to do. How does that affect us? How does that affect, in layman's terms? Regardless of what them busters are doing or not doing, we've got to keep on doing what we know God has called us to do. They may not rock with you. They may sit over there and point the finger, but as soon as it's successful, they're going to change their tune. You know what I mean? And so I think we lost Preston. But Dave, you got anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I want to say this one more thing.
Absolutely.
Because I was just thinking about everything you just said and going back and putting that in context with the relay race again. Is I think sometimes it's important for us to know when we're running on the wrong team.
Ooh.
And
hold on, I got a shot right there. Oh my Lord Jesus, that right there. Yeah. Amen. Okay, go. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think sometimes we get so the blind leading the blind, both fall into the ditch, instead of us recognize, you know what, I'm running a race with a blind man, and I can't see well.
Right.
I need to get with somebody, a team that's going to look out for my, weaknesses, that's going to help me get better, and who has my best interest at heart. And sometimes that team may not look like what you think it's going to look like, because a lot of us have been so indoctrinated that we rejected people that God was placing on our team because they didn't look like us, they didn't dress like us, they didn't preach like us, they didn't sound like us, and I think, and oftentimes missed out on what God was trying to do, because we felt like we had to be in 100% agreement on every single point. And God was like, listen, I wanted you to team up with them because there was something I wanted you to impart in them. There was something that they was going to give to you. But sometimes we got to recognize that we might be running on teams that just for putting it out there like it's plain, that just ain't for you. And we're trying to bring them to a point of accepting us and say, you know what? Why do that when there's a team over here that's ready to say, you know what? Come over here. We can grow together. We can build together. We can be successful. We can make this work together.
Right.
And once I think we get that understanding and realize what we can do when we actually have the right, as a pastor, and just, I don't care what no pastor says.
Come on,
pastoring, when you have the right team of people,
it's a different ballgame.
It feels differently when you got folks that are there that are going to help build the vision with you, work with you, that it's not all on you. You're not trying to make it. The people that God places with you to be on that team. And again, they may not be the people that agree with you. They may not be the people that look the way you thought you wanted them to look, or whatever it is. But God will give you people that say, look, this is your team. And this team is going to get you where you need to go, and get the church or get the ministry where it needs to go. And this is going to be the team that you're going to build and that you're going to win together. So, for whoever it is out there that needs that, if look at your team, and if you want the wrong team, don't be afraid. Yeah. Don't be afraid to reassess the team that you want.
Sometimes you got to renegotiate, and It's real talk is what it is, man. And you know, I heard somebody say, "Why stay where you're tolerated, where you can go where you're
Go where
celebrated?"
you celebrate it.
You know,
Here we
and
is.
but that's real talk right there, Dave, man. I definitely appreciate your wisdom and your insight that you have shared with us on tonight, and hopefully somebody was blessed, somebody was encouraged, somebody was enlightened, somebody was helped, you know, because the team, man, I'm saying that, man, look at here, man.
Teamwork make the dream work.
Teamwork makes the dream work, man. Yes, indeed. Let me say this, Dave. Let me say this. Now you have people. You kind of mentioned that um, it may not be the ones you think or the ones you even wanted for that matter, right? And okay, his phone died, so his phone died. But however, you can, because who comes to my mind is David. Okay, now
Mhm.
David is in the cave of Adullam, and he is met by these brothers who are, and for lack of a better term, broke, busted, and disgusted. They were pretty much
Yep.
rejected by Saul for whatever reason. And my
Yep.
point is, a lot of times, leaders and certain teams will discard of certain people, will not use certain people, and will deem them useless. Okay, now they've
Yeah.
been hurt by that experience. Now they get somewhere else and you've got a different style of leadership, a different anointing of leadership, who are not afraid of their differences, who are not afraid of the potential issues that they bring with them, because we all bring a level of issues. Okay, let's just be real
Yep.
about that. I've got some issues, and if I'm on the
Yep.
wrong team, then those issues can be they can be magnified. They can be, you know, but with the right team, just like Dennis Rodman. I'm not even a sports guy, but Dennis Rodman couldn't have played for any team. You know, he needed the
You telling
right
the truth on
coach.
that?
Yeah, he needed the right coach. He needed the right teammates, you know, that could tolerate him, could understand him, and could help him. And so now they get on a team where they are, I'm not even going to say understood, but they're, and I'm definitely not going to say tolerated, but where they're
Mm-hmm.
giving the space to grow, you know,
Yeah.
and then it's a whole new ball game from there, whole new ball game.
You mentioned that, and y'all know I'm a New England Patriots fan. So Rodney Harrison, right? He was considered to be washed
Rodney
up.
Harrison.
He was considered to be washed up and um, done. And when he gets signed on the Patriots, people are asking, why is Belichick signing this guy? Like, what's he gonna do?
Mhm.
And he said when he gets on the team, he had such a chip on his shoulder because essentially he felt like people had given up on him. He had got injured and all that. And he comes
Okay.
to the Patriots and he balls out. He ends up winning 2 Super Bowls. And he was crying because his mother was able to actually see him win one of the Super Bowls, and it meant so much to him. And I say that to say that when you mentioned that about David is that oftentimes we can label people based upon where they were before, what team they were on, who they played for, what they did, and the reality is that Bill being a good coach, and people have their perspective on Bill Belichick, but what Rodney Harrison said is that Bill still saw something in me that other people didn't. He
Mm-hmm.
saw that I still had the ability internally to get my job done. So Bill brings him here and says, if you can do this is what I want you to do. And the impact that he had wasn't just on the field, it was also in the locker room. He changed the dynamic of the other players around him. And Bill Belichick knew that. He had that quality. And I think that when you look at what David did in the scripture with those men, is that he recognized that, yeah, while they were looked down upon, and for everybody that's in that space where they feel like, I have nothing that I can offer, there's a place out there that can see what you have to offer and that will still
Mm-hmm.
believe in who you are. And to me, I know we say a whole lot of stuff about, oh, stay here, don't move there, don't go
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. I personally believe that you owe it to yourself and God to go to that place that's going to see everything that God placed inside of you and pull on it,
Mm-hmm.
and remind you and inspire you to become everything that God calls you to be. And I think that's what we say a lot of times in church. People hear that as, oh, you're telling people to leave. No, I'm telling people, look, if you're in that place, we only got one life here to live on this earth to
Right.
to fulfill and feel fulfilled. And if you're not feeling that, you're not living that, you owe it to yourself to find that place that's going to help you do that. And that means that's the team that you need to be on.
That's it right there. Look here, we got a guest, or I shouldn't say guest, a viewer, Jenny Jones. Good evening, Jenny Jones. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be a part of the Retro Philosophy Show on tonight. She has made a post. She says, recruit new team members. Talk to us about that, David. Recruiting new team members. Because I definitely understand that. But there's a devil's advocate side that I want to play on that. So let me hear what you got to say about recruiting new team members.
I think I know what you mean by that. Devil's
Okay.
advocate side.
Okay.
I know oftentimes in the church, it gets very taboo when you use the word recruit.
Okay.
Because people will take that and use it as, oh, you're trying to steal people or whatever it is. But I do think that when it comes down to building a ministry or whatever it is, that you have to be willing to accept, the people that God is sending to you. You have to be willing to look in unconventional places, and they may not always, depending on what you need and what God is, pulling on you all to do. You may have to think outside the box. I'll say it like that.
Right.
And no, I'm not telling anybody to go call up people at other people's church, because I know people will hear that, and that's the first thing they'll hear. No, I'm not saying that, you go and, hey, pull people from other people's churches and all that kind of stuff. But I do think that when it comes down to building a ministry, when it comes down to having certain needs, that when people that are capable of being able to do certain things, and you don't, position those individuals to be a part of that team, I think you're doing yourself and the ministry a disservice.
Can we steal people from another church? We can do that?
I don't think it's possible, personally.
Okay.
I kind of don't like that language.
Yeah. Because first of all, the church doesn't own members. Second of all, there have been Preston, you can go ahead and hit me back on the audio messenger and we can bring you in that way, sir. If you're still wanting to get on, I had answered you. I was going to bring you on. God will always lead, your wife said. Amen. But okay, we got him back on. So we can't. I don't think that we can steal members personally. Okay.
Right.
But the point that I wanted to make is, there are people that have come to Upper Praise Ministries, okay, and felt they needed to leave for whatever reason. When that time came, if I didn't think that was God, I would share my opinion. But I always make sure that they leave on good terms. I don't want any bad stuff, any bad, whatever, because somebody over there might be able to reach them and might be able to do better for them. You know what I'm saying? Furthermore, I cannot pastor everybody, nor did God call me to pastor everybody. There may very well be a select group that I'm able to effectively pastor. Okay. And with that said and done, it's almost like elementary, junior high, high school, college. Nobody graduated from the third grade. You graduate from 12th grade, and you matriculate from level to level. And so my point is, there are some churches that can only take you but so far.
That's true.
I mean, that's just the truth of the matter.
I agree. No matter how good the preaching is, teaching is, we're all limited in our ability. And I do believe wholeheartedly that there are times where God sends people to you that are going to be seasonal. And you have to recognize that there's only but so far, like you said, I have the ability to take a person. And I don't think that we should take it. No, nobody wants to see people just to leave, like you said, and that's a very natural human feeling. But at the same time, I think that we have to be prepared for that and not try to take ownership of people, if you will, Like you said, I don't think that we can steal people. If everyone that comes to Victory Point, you're free to come. And if the Lord leads you, you're free to go. And no, we're not pushing anybody out the door. But like you said, Sheldon, I want everybody to know, look, if you leave, and there have been people that have left that we still engage with today. Yeah, you can call me. You can always call me. Like, I'm always here for you, no matter where you are, no matter where you're going. I think that's important. But I do believe in this season, if we want to kind of tie that together and we talk about going forward in ministry and changing the guard, I think that we are in a season where, as pastors and leaders, we have to stop being so divided and tribal when it comes down to these are my saints, those are your saints, my saints. If I decide they can't interact with your saints, then they're not going to interact with your saints. And I think we have to stop thinking on those levels and start doing more working together and recognizing that, maybe Pastor MacGyver can help you out in this area that I struggle in. I'm going to call him up and tell him, or ask him if he can talk to you and meet. Now, does that mean that they're going to leave? Maybe not. Maybe it does. But maybe there is something that you can bring to the table in which that member now even says, wow, I can't believe that you trusted me. Well, no, I have a relationship with him. We talk all the time. And so we're not at odds. We're not competing with one another. We're here as pastors for the betterment of the people in our area. I think as far as the changing the guard, this is where the church in our era, I believe, is moving toward. And this is what people kind of want, to have that freedom. And to know that they can trust their leaders to have their best interest at heart, to say, you know what, maybe not this person right here. I'm not telling you can't, but I have some questions about them. However, maybe look into this over here, and then let people make the best decisions that they want to make or that they can make for themselves.
Let me address Cheney real quick.
Earlier you said in regards to the building era, this isn't it. So right now is what you call this era right here? What we in? It's not the building era. The churches, etc.
What would you call this era? Person, can you hear me, sir?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. What would I call it?
Yeah, what would you call it?
Oh man, it's one of those where I think it's super important for balance. So like the word is like very powerful, so it's got to be the exact one, and I don't even want to misquote it. I don't want to say.
I got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This era, like to me, what is it? That's what I was asking. I need that information. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when I think of this era, I think of Nehemiah. Okay. Now Nehemiah got word that his home city was in disarray, had been besieged or whatever, and he was concerned. Okay. So I think leaders have got to be concerned about what's going on. Now I know your church is doing well. You got a nice cushiony pastor's aid and building fund, and you got your so you comfortable. But we've got to be concerned with the state of our neighborhoods. And in other words, we got to get outside of our boxes. We got to get outside our church culture. Okay. And we've got to be concerned with what's going on. Now, you live in a great neighborhood. Crime doesn't come near you. You know what I'm saying? But does that mean you don't have to be concerned about those who are living in neighborhoods where crime is every day? I was talking to a young lady the other day, and I was asking her, how did she feel about the recent crime? And, she said, you know what, it's normal. It's normal, and so I just find it messed up that we can get to a place where we accept, just like we were talking about Juneteenth initially, these people were free and didn't even realize it. These people are bound and don't realize they don't have to be, So anyway, let me get to my point. We've got to be concerned. Nehemiah goes and he looks around, he walks around before he did anything. And I think that this era It's a time where we've got to assess the damage. You know, we can't argue and say, David, it's your fault, you dropped the ball. No, Preston, it's your fault, you dropped the baton. It's time out for that. Let's stop the bleeding first. Okay. And so we've got to assess what's going on. We've got to be concerned, and then we've got to be willing to do what we've got to do. You know, let me speak to Janie's point here. She says recruit new members. Now, there's several sides to that I want to talk about. Now, we can recruit new members, and I think Nadine said something a while ago about sheep follow the shepherd, right? And it made me think about the saying that I used to always hear: sheep beget sheep, right? And so
Right.
let's say the team members are playing so well, there are other team members, potential team members, that said, I want to be a part of that team because I love the way they play. They work good together. He's got a good jumper. This one's got great defense. I want to be a part of that team. They get there and they find out that the team is great, but the coach sucks, or vice versa.
Mm,
They say, I want to join
mm,
that team because coach so-and-so, he does a great job. I've heard several of his speeches. You know, he's always rallying the team. He's inspiring them. But then they get there and they realize that the team members are fighting against each other. They're being stingy on the court, so on and so forth. And so sometimes recruiting new members isn't always the answer, because what most
mm.
of us, or what a lot of people experience, is what I like to call a revolving door,
Right.
because they never address the real issues. The real issue is the real issue is something other than team members sometimes. And sometimes
Well,
the
I
real
got.
issue is something other than the coach. Go ahead, Dave.
Now I was gonna say that that's the thing that we have to address. That if you have a problem with the whole team,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't fire the players.
Mm-hmm. You fire the coach.
You gotta look at the coach. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of times we're afraid to do that, and we have these discussions in the church. And I see it very often on Facebook where you know I can throw a rock and see someone posting about how a pastor can't do his job if the church isn't doing this and the church isn't doing this, and I get it. There has to be, but at a certain point you have to ask yourself the question: Do I need to change the way I'm trying to lead them? Do I need to readdress my process or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever? And I think that sometimes we get afraid to ask those questions because we like to rely on, well, God called me here,
Mm-hmm.
and God put me here, and if God put me here, then yada yada yada. And we kind of take the responsibility of the work off of us. And you mentioned something when you mentioned Nehemiah, that even though Nehemiah felt led by the Lord to go back, he still had to go back and get people
Mm-hmm.
to look at burned down walls and gates and rock and rubble
Yep.
and tell them, hey, we're gonna build something here. And even when he gets it rebuilt and the temple's rebuilt, I think in Ezra, um, the older generation still doesn't like
Mm-hmm.
what is rebuilt, and they begin to complain. Well, now even though we're rebuilt, well, now it doesn't look like what it would look like before, you know. And
But
the
you
young
still,
people
they
are
didn't
rejoicing,
they didn't put
and
their
they're
hand to the
crying.
process. They didn't put their hand to the
And
process, though. You know.
exactly. And I just think that's key. But
Yeah.
Nehemiah still inspired a new generation to
Mm-hmm.
rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good aspect of leadership, because he had the call, but he had to be willing to do the work in face of criticism on essentially coming from his enemies and from folks internally as well.
There you go. There you go. There you go. That part right there. I'm going back to India's comment where she says trust is key. You know, because Nehemiah, he goes, he checks out the land and everything. He then inspires some other folk to come along with him to do the work. And they trusted him enough
Yeah.
to go with him, you know. And so I think when you got good leadership, you know, you trust them. If they give you a task, you trust that they see something in you to get the task done, you know,
Yeah.
because I think you said it earlier, you know, sometimes you think you can't do something, but good leadership will pull it out of you, you know.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that part right there. Well, Dave, you got any final remarks?
Nah, man, this has been great. I've been enjoying this conversation. It's been a great
Likewise,
one.
man. Likewise. So, you know what? I should have had you send me the graphic. I could have put it up
I can
on the
send it to you
screen.
real quick.
Yeah, go
Let
ahead
me
and
send it to
send
you
it
right
real
now.
quickly, and we'll go ahead and share that with everybody. As a matter of fact, you text it to me.
Yeah, I did text it to you.
Yeah, yeah. So let me see if I can go ahead and get this up here real quick, and that way we can share. Go ahead and tell the listeners a little bit about Victory Point. Go ahead and get your plug in there.
All right. So, again, Victory Point, we launched it in April was our launch month. We were formerly Greater Bethlehem Temple number 2, and God moved upon us, and we were able to launch out. We were in the city of Lynn, but now we're in the city of Springfield, Massachusetts, and we're a growing ministry. Our focus is community driven. And that essentially is what Victory Point it means. We wanted it to be personal to everyone who is a part of the ministry, to know that no matter what you're going through right now, your victory point, it could be right ahead, or it is right ahead. And we all go through our lives, and we can look back at different moments in our lives that were our victory points.
Mm-hmm.
Times when we actually overcame something, that we achieved something, that whatever it is. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted people to be able to connect the dots in their lives. I don't know how I made it over, but I can look back and see the different steps that God brought me through. And we wanted to have a ministry that really spoke to the people, that really allowed people to come and have that space where they could again feel safe, where we could have fellowship, be able to share our struggles with each other. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
makes the name even have more meaning, because even myself, we want people to know that, look, we got struggles, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about past struggles. I have
Right,
struggles right
right,
now.
right, right.
you
Current
know Current struggles, let me tell you right now, every day is not easy.
right.
But we wanted to have that transparency where we could know, look, although we may have struggles, we can struggle together, we can fight together, we can cry together, we gonna dance together, we'll
Mm-hmm.
laugh together, and we'll all get there together. And that's what we wanted the ministry to be about. And we're excited to be in Springfield. There's a great work, a gentleman that actually delivered some patio blocks to my house. He ended up talking to my wife and said, "Hey, yeah, I live in Springfield." And we
Mm-hmm.
said, "Oh, well, our church." She told him our church in Springfield. He said, "I remember your husband. I was here before." And she texted him my number in the text thread, and he reached back and said, "I'm going to join in." Um, on the live stream, and I was surprised. He actually, he joined in, and he reached out to me afterward and said, he said, I was touched by the message, and he said, "You know what, Springfield is ripe for a breakthrough." And
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Wow, look at that."
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, we believe that God is going to do some great things. We've got a great team of people that are excited, that are hungry, that are ready to move, and so we're here. We're in Springfield, and if you're around, or if you're online, check us out.
Check them out.
Oh, and
Victory
Pastor
Point.
MacGyver, since
Go ahead.
so
Go ahead.
since you threw the graphic up, I didn't want to be the one to break it out, but since you have given the permission, I'm
Oh,
excited.
okay, okay,
I'm
okay.
excited. I'm so excited about Independence Day Sunday service,
Uh-huh.
July the 3rd. We are going to have the gospel ambassador, who is returning
Hey,
home.
yes,
He's
indeed.
returning home. Him and
They
his
don't know
lovely
nothing about
wife.
Mr. Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. He's
Gospel
back
ambassador. Yeah,
with
man.
Lady MacGyver. They
Yeah.
are, and I'm telling you right now, we just going to turn the mic over. Both of them, when they do their thing, they do their thing. So I'm excited. We're going to turn the mic over and let them do what it do, how God lets them do it. And so, everybody, you're welcome to come out 3 p.m., 455 Island Pond Road, City of Springfield, Massachusetts, July 3rd. We are excited. We're going to have a time in the Lord.
Yeah,
So
we
I'm
are. We're
excited
gonna have
about
a
that.
time. Yeah, I'm
We're
excited.
gonna
We're
have
gonna be with
a
family.
good old time.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So if you're in the Springfield area, surrounding area, come on through and make sure you come in and worship with us and hear what thus saith the Lord. What's going on, Troy? Troy is in the building. He said, "Yes, indeed." But we are
Yes,
definitely
indeed.
keeping, yeah, we're definitely keeping track with you guys, man. We are really, really excited about what God is doing, and I too agree with the young man, whoever he is, when he said Springfield is ripe for a breakthrough, and that is no pun intended. That's no, not to talk down on anyone else's work that they've done, but seasons are seasons, man. And so we appreciate the opportunity, and we're looking forward to it. Nadine says, "Victory Point, the chosen generation who call my God the children of Israel, the Lion of Judah." Good night,
Come
Nadine. How
on,
are you
Sister
doing, woman of
Cruz.
God? Let's give God a praise for her on tonight.
Praise God. Thank you for
And
joining with us.
absolutely, absolutely. So you guys can expect to see and hear more from us, more interviews like this. We want to thank Preston for being with us on tonight. He ran into some charging problems, which is definitely understandable. I do apologize for getting started late, but we had some technical difficulties. But we've got the technician already scheduled, and so he should be here Wednesday. We can get some things sorted out so that we won't have those kind of hiccups, if you will. All right. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, again, we just want to say thank you. Oh yeah, that's what I want to ask you, Dave. Let's see here. Let me go back to India's comment here, because she's a powerful woman of God, and but she put the website up there.
Oh, yes.
victorypointma.com. Okay. So Victory Point, Massachusetts is what that MA stands for. That I do know. So are
Yes,
we
sir.
anticipating, expecting, or possibly foreseeing other locations?
We are definitely praying about what it looks like.
Okay.
I do believe that it is God's will that we touch other areas of the
Mm-hmm.
state,
Mm-hmm.
and we're working to kind of like formulate and plan out what that's going to look like. Does it look like other churches? Does it look like us doing pop-up services, which is something we're really keen on doing?
Mm-hmm.
Just hitting areas, throwing the tents up, and we're kind of working through what types of permits we need to have in different areas and different things like that. But we really want to be fluid and organic with how this happens,
Good.
and go into these different areas and what it looks like, because we don't want to just kind of fall back into the trap of just popping up, just doing church,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is, I'm not against having, still love having great church services,
Mm-hmm.
but I think sometimes we fall into the trap of every time we do something, we're just having the same church format. So, looking at the different areas, the different needs in the different areas, how we can go into those areas and be effective. And so we're actually talking with different people that live in different parts of the state and asking those questions. If we came into your area, what would that look like? What would
Mm-hmm.
be effective in your area? And really allowing those individuals who are in the different areas to kind of be the points, of how they could, okay, yeah, you guys can come in and you can do this or whatever, and seeing where it goes from there. So we do believe that ultimately we want to touch Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
We want to touch the entire state. We want to see an organic, fluid move of God that really just breaks out, that's not just contained within the four walls,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, may not look like what traditionally we would expect it to look like. But I do believe God is moving in that direction.
Amen. Praise God. Praise God. Well, we are excited, and I've got to say I'm proud of you. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. So God bless you, and yeah, you just keep on doing your thing, keep on plowing forward, and God will definitely handle His part of the business. I sincerely believe that. All right,
Yes,
hold the line,
sir.
Dave. I'm gonna take you off, and we're gonna get ready to shut it down. Okay? Don't hang up yet,
Yes,
though. All
sir.
right. All right.
No
So,
problem.
folks, I want to thank you for being a part of the Retro Philosophy Show on today. Again, we want to thank Preston for joining us as well. Next week, I need for you to talk to me in the comment section, maybe in the inbox, even if you need to. Choice says the generation of gathering, not building. There you go. That part right there, the generation of gathering, not building.
Woo!
That's powerful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That right there is powerful. Now he trying to get us to go off into a whole nother show. We'd already been on here longer than we needed to. But Troy, he's starting something now, man.
He's starting something.
Nothing won't be nothing, you know.
Oh man.
Yeah, the generation of gathering, not building. And wow, that's powerful. And when you go back to Nehemiah, he did that. He gathered, you know. But anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and shut it down. Next week, Dave. Next week, I am that much I am that much convinced that next week's interview is going to be about the effectiveness of today's church. I think that's what I want to talk about next week, the effectiveness of today's church. And in order to talk about the effectiveness of today's church, we cannot have that conversation with only the church.
Ooh. See that?
It cannot be, because, you know, we're biased. And from our perspective, oh yeah, we are successful, we are effective, we're this, that, the other, and but yet still you got yeah.
Can I say something real quick on that note?
Yeah, absolutely.
When I was a young person in church, and not old, but you know, when I was younger.
Younger.
But when I was in my late teens or mid to late teens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't uncommon to have discussions on, you know, youth in the church. Why are youth leaving the church? Some of the same discussions I see people that still happen today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what would always happen in a lot of those discussions is that you would see a lot of, you know, older people sitting around and kind of come up with their reasons. Oh, well, they're not in the church because they don't want to live right. They don't want to be saved. They want to do their thing, such and so on. But you never really seen was the youth actually getting asked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'd be like, well, you could actually ask those youth or ask us, and then we can kind of help you with that. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you made that statement about, you know, the effectiveness of the church, I don't see how we could measure ourselves by our own ruler and say, because typically when we talk about effectiveness, I will measure myself by a church that I deem as less effective and then say, well, I must be effective because I'm more effective than them.
Right.
But if the people that I'm seeking to serve are saying that I'm just as ineffective, then what does it really mean? And so, yeah, I think that you're hitting on something there, that if we're going to be, we have to be willing to listen to those individuals. We talked about the lost earlier. If we can't listen to them, how can we try to save them?
Right.
And if we've already deemed that what they're saying now is not of value because they haven't gone through our, you know, process of salvation, then why would they want to go through it if we won't value what they're saying now? So yeah, you know, if you're having that discussion, bringing in some folks that are not church to listen to them saying some of the things that we probably or may not want to hear and not get defensive. I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So we're gonna work on a few things, and we will probably I'm about 95% sure we're going to have that conversation next week. So you can look forward to the Monday morning interviews. We had started that some time ago, and so we're gonna get back on that. You can see that at the bottom of the screen there. Join us Mondays at 8 p.m. for live interviews. If you have some topics that you would like to hear us address, then let me know. Inbox me, call me, and we will make sure we put it on the list, and we will have that conversation. Let's say what's up to Creations by TYS. She said, that's good. What's up,
hey,
girl?
Big Cuz.
Yes, indeed. You can find her, just in case you're looking for her, you can find her over there at 111 Center Street here in Statesville, North Carolina. Creations by TYS. where she makes all kind of fine jewelry, all kind of beadwork. You know, she'll get you blinged up. You see, I got it matching the retro fit. You know what I'm saying? Well, look at that, look at that, look at that. Yeah. So you know, she's got all that custom stuff over there. That
I'm gonna have to get me some red, black, and white beads.
There you go. She'll get you right. She'll get
Yeah.
you right. She'll get you straight. All kind of custom pieces
yes.
and everything, man. And that's there you go right there. creationsbytys.com. But that's another issue. As I got to get out of here, man, because
we'll keep doing this all night. You know how we can go.
All night. Let's shut it down. Let's shut it down. Let's shut it down.
Well, just say what you're gonna say, because now I'm interested. Now I'll be thinking about it. So you got to say it now.
The thing is, man, we gather these people and we teach them to sow their tithes and their first fruits and their offerings and the this, that, and the other. And as long as they can keep doing that, whether it's their rent money, their car note, or their baby shoes money, you know, we fine with it as long as it keeps coming in. But we never take time to empower them.
To say that.
Amen, Pastor.
Okay. So we never take the time to really minister enough to them that they become empowered. Case in point,
come on.
My sister, she got out of high school. She went to Southwest Airlines School or whatever. Come on, and they said, "Oh Lord," and so she was a stewardess for many years. Well, she was she worked the gate for a long time, and she did well. She did well. She made good money, and she did well for herself, right? But she is now an entrepreneur. She's got her own place, beautiful shop over there. And so the point that I'm making is, if we're going to be effective, being effective is not getting what we need out of the people, but being effective is helping them get to a point where they're everything they can be and even more. Now, see, sometimes just because they making six figures, we think, oh, they're successful, but they mean as a junkyard dog. They got ulcers, you know, they cuss in private, they drink in private because they just miserable. But yet still they sowing their offerings, they paying their tithes, they, you know, but for some of them, God wants even more. He wants even more. Tyler Smith is in the building. Amen. Let's give it up for her. Taylor Smith. She said, yes. Say that, sir. Say that, sir. All right. I probably got in trouble. I ain't got but one person to say amen.
Amen,
Thank
Pastor.
you. I'm going to get out of here. Dave, hold the line, all right? All right, folks. Again, we want to thank you for pressing play and being a part of the Retro Philosophy Show. Catch us this coming Thursday as we discuss all things pertaining to motorcycle ministry and even more. For those of you who don't know, not only am I pastor of Upper Praise Ministries, I'm also the president of Kingdom Alignment Motorcycle Ministry. Because a motorcycle ministry can go places that the church can't. It is what it is. God has given us wisdom, and we got to walk in wisdom. And sometimes he said, what's that in your hand? A throttle. Okay, take that and use it for my glory. And so that's what we do. We ride our motorcycles all over the place, and we take advantage of opportunities to minister to different people from different walks of life that the church would usually make feel uncomfortable. And so we had great opportunity on yesterday at the Juneteenth to witness and to just, you know, speak into the lives of some people. And so that part right there, I'm gonna leave you with this right here. God bless you and heaven smile on you in the wonderful, mighty, matchless name of the Lord Jesus Christ. And it ain't gonna play. So we're just gonna have to leave you on that note right there. It's supposed to be a video, you guys, of the festivities on yesterday at Juneteenth. So just pretend it's playing and you watched it and you liked it and all that good stuff. Make sure you go over to the YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and also hit the share button, okay? Because somebody else may need to get some of this stuff on today that we talked about. It's your boy Retro, and I am, as we would say back in the day, Oh, you know what? Hold on one second. Let me try this real quick. My wife is saying this dude is bootleg. But that's the graphic there, ladies and gentlemen. If you're in the Springfield area, make sure you join us Independence Day service at Victory Point. All right. You can get more information at victorypointma.com, or you can inbox myself or Pastor David Edie Sr. here on Facebook and other social media platforms. It's your boy Retro. Thank you for pressing play. We love you. We appreciate you. You already know how we do it. Everybody included. La-di-da-di.